Every week, there's a new headline warning that artificial intelligence is coming for our livelihoods. We're told it could reshape office jobs and creative professions. While we fixate on future automation, a concrete crisis is already unfolding. Developed nations are running out of teachers and doctors. These roles represent the critical human infrastructure that keeps an advanced economy standing. When they disappear, the systems that allow a society to function begin to stall. This chart shows the projected global demand for educators. According to UNESCO, just maintaining today's baseline education systems will require millions of new teachers by 2030. The existing workforce is aging fast, and fewer people are stepping in behind them. The data on healthcare is even starker. The World Health Organization projects a global shortfall of roughly 11 million health workers by 2030. We are already seeing the early symptoms of this pressure. Aging medical staff are retiring faster than they can be replaced, and the remaining workers are forced to absorb the difference. Heavy administrative workloads and critical understaffing are accelerating burnout, pushing experienced professionals into early retirement. Unlike a market recession, which eventually bounces back, we are watching the systematic power down of our core operating grid. If this shortage becomes permanent, the underlying structure of modern society doesn't just stall, it begins to fundamentally break down around us. To understand why this is happening, we have to look at demographics. Across high-income nations, populations are aging rapidly. In countries like Japan, Italy, and Germany, more than 1 in 5 people is already over the age of 65. Older societies naturally require much more healthcare, meaning demand is accelerating. At exactly the same time, birth rates across developed countries have fallen well below the replacement level of 2.1 children per woman. Right as the need for essential workers spikes, there are significantly fewer young people entering the workforce to fill those roles. Take a look at this timeline mapping the journey of a medical professional. Training a new doctor often takes a decade or more from university entry to full qualification. Training a teacher is a multi-year process as well. That means the shortages we see today are the result of funding and capacity decisions made 10 to 20 years ago. Even if a student wants to enter these fields, the economics often work against them. Getting fully qualified requires years of expensive training and high student debt. Once they enter the workforce, public sector pay structures usually cap their earnings over a career, making the financial payoff much slower than private sector alternatives. So those who do make it through, the daily reality is increasingly demanding. Existing staff shortages feed directly into heavier workloads and longer hours for everyone else. This strain forces even more people to quit early. Fewer people begin training, more leave earlier than expected, and the workforce ages out. Advanced economies have built an incentive structure that actively penalizes the exact human capital they desperately need to survive. Faced with this math, policymakers have largely avoided the expensive, slow work of expanding domestic training. Instead, they hit the snooze button. They redesign their visa systems to fast-track doctors and nurses from abroad, using migration as a cheap, immediate stopgap. In the short term, importing essential workers keeps hospitals and schools open, but migrant professionals are highly mobile. In the UK, for example, around 1/3 of doctors were trained abroad. Many arrive, gain credentials, and then leave for higher-paying systems like the US or Australia. The UK acts as a temporary stepping stone, leaving the underlying shortage unresolved. While wealthy countries use migration as a temporary patch, the consequence for developing nations is severe. When high-income countries recruit foreign medical staff, they extract critical infrastructure from places that already have desperate shortages of their own. In Ghana, roughly 7 out of 10 doctors trained during the 1990s were working overseas just a few years after graduating. In Kenya, the emigration of just 167 doctors represented an estimated loss of around $86 million in domestic training investments, money directly absorbed by wealthier nations. North America and Europe employ 2/3 of the world's health workers, despite carrying 1/5 of the global disease burden. Africa bears nearly 1/4 of the disease burden, but retains only 3% of the medical workforce. By relying on migration instead of funding domestic training, the wealthiest nations are effectively cannibalizing the world's human infrastructure. It guarantees a systemic collapse across borders, rather than solving the problem at the source. When we accept understaffing as a permanent reality, systems adapt by slowly degrading. In education, class sizes creep up, individual attention drops, and students leave school with weaker skills. Research from the World Bank shows that this learning deficit directly locks in lower productivity and crippled economic growth decades down the line. In healthcare, the consequences move faster. Chronic staff shortages mean longer waiting times and delayed diagnoses. In England, long waits in emergency departments have become so severe that they are associated with an estimated 250 preventable deaths every single week. There is clear evidence that this trend can be reversed. This graph maps Portugal's long-term strategy. By steadily expanding their medical school capacity over 2 decades, they reached 5.8 doctors per 1,000 people. Romania took a similar internal approach. Their emigration of doctors fell from around 1,500 a year to fewer than 500. After heavy outflows in the 2010s, the government aggressively raised pay and improved working conditions, allowing the country to finally retain its own graduates and rebuild capacity from within. Technology provides a path to make these roles more sustainable. When used to automate administrative bloat and routine filing, AI acts as a force multiplier. It clears the schedule for professionals to perform the specialized work only humans can do, helping to protect these careers from collapse. We spend immense amounts of time worrying about how technology might eliminate our livelihoods, but true societal security doesn't come from digital fortresses. It comes from an uncompromising commitment to fund, protect, and rebuild the human infrastructure that keeps the lights on.